Hi students, this is Ms. Johnson with 1-4 Day 1. We're going to simplify expressions with distributing. What is distributing? Well, let's put that in our vocabulary section. The distributive property is my favorite property, and we are going to need to distribute, which also means to multiply, the term in front of or right next to parentheses to everything inside the parentheses. So if we take this example, 2 times the quantity of 3 plus 5, the distributive property says we're going to take this number 2 and we're going to multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. So we're going to go 2 times 3, and then we're going to go 2 times a positive 5. So plus 2 times 5. If we want, we can keep going. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. So then we can add them together, and 6 plus 10 is 16. But the distributive property is to take the term, or whatever is right next to the parentheses, and multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. Alright, let's go ahead and do some examples. Number 1, we have 7 times the quantity of 1 minus 8n. So 7 is right next to the parentheses, so we're going to multiply that to everything inside. So we're going to do 7 times 1. Then we're going to do 7 times negative 8n. So minus 7 times negative 8n there. Alright, well 7 times 1 is 7. And 7 times 8n is 56n. So our answer, or our distributing, is 7 minus 56n. Moving on to number 2. Number 2, we have 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 3y minus 5z. Now most of the time, it'll probably be like number 1, where there's just 2 things in the parentheses. Sometimes there's more than 2 things, like problem number 2. And that's okay. We still need to multiply 3 times everything inside the parentheses. So we're going to go 3 times 2x, 3 times 3y, and 3 times negative 5z. Well, 3 times 2x, 3 times 2 is 6, and we just bring along the x. 3 times 3y, 3 times 3 is 9, so we get 9y. 3 times negative 5z is a negative, or minus 15z. All of these are different variables, so we cannot combine our like terms, so that is our final simplification. 6x plus 9y minus 15z. Taking a look at problem number 3, sometimes the number that we need to distribute isn't in front. There's nothing here. Sometimes the number or the term is at the end, and we can distribute that way too. As we distribute, we need to first go all the way over to the left. So we're going to do 5 times 3x, 5 times 3x, keep my plus, and then we're going to do 5 times 4. Oop, that's a funky looking 4, sorry. Alright, 5 times 3x, that's 15x, and 5 times 4 is 20. So we have 15x plus 20. Alright, let's move on to a few other ones. Example number 4, we sometimes need to distribute negatives as well. So we have negative 8x times b plus 3. So we got to watch the sign in front, so we're going to do negative 8 times b. Well, negative 8 times b is negative 8b. And we're going to distribute negative 8 times positive 3. A negative times a positive is negative. Good job. And 8 times 3 is 24. So we get negative 8b minus 24. There's our simplification. Number 5. We have 4n minus the quantity of 7 minus 6n. Now be careful with this one, because the 4n isn't what we are going to distribute. It is not right next to the parentheses. What's right next to the parentheses is this negative. So we are actually going to distribute the negative to each thing in the parentheses. And some of you, and we are all mathematicians, remember that there is really a 1 here. We just don't have to write it because we're mathematicians. So we can think about this as distributing a negative, or we can think about this as distributing a negative 1 to each thing inside the parentheses. What do we do with the 4n, you ask? It just hangs out. Don't forget about it. So let's bring it down, 4n. And then we're going to do negative 1 times 7. Well, negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. Next, negative 1 times negative 6n. A negative times a negative is a positive. And the 1 times 6n is 6n. So we have 4n minus 7 plus 6n. This time we are not quite done, because as you take a look, you might see some like terms. Our like terms are 4n plus 6n. So let's combine these. Let's simplify them. 4n plus 6n is 10n. This minus 7 isn't like anything else, so we just have it come along. So our final simplification after we distribute is 10n minus 7. Moving on to number 6, we have 4m times the quantity of 7 minus 6n plus 22. We have this 4m that's right next to the parentheses, so this time we're going to distribute a number and the variable. So 4m times 7. Let me break this one down. 4m times 7. Then we're going to do 4m times negative 6n. 4m times 6n. And we've got our plus 4m times 22. We got to multiply to everything in the parentheses. All right, let's do our multiplying. 4m times 7. 4 times 7 is 28, so we get 28m minus 4m times 6n. Well, 4 times 6 is 24. Then we're going to do m times n. Well, we don't know what they are, so as we multiply two variables, we just write them right next to one another. M times n. And we have our plus 4m times 22. 4 times 22 is 88. And let's bring along the m, so 88m. We are almost done. We've got a couple like terms here. Hopefully you've caught them. We have plus 88m, and we have plus 28m. So 28m plus 88m, I believe, is 116. You can certainly double check me. So we have 116m minus 24mn. This mn is not a like term because it has the n. All right, very last example, number 7. As we distribute, it is mostly for multiplication, but we can think about it with division as well. Number 7, we have negative 6x plus 8 divided by 2. This whole thing is divided by 2, which means the 6x needs to be divided by 2, and the 8 needs to be divided by 2. So if we break it down, we've got negative 6x divided by 2 plus the 8 needs to get divided by 2. Okay, so it needs to go to each part. Well, negative 6x divided by 2, negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Don't forget the x. Plus 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we get negative 3x plus 4. All right, this is the distributive property. Let's go ahead and summarize. Draw your line. The focus of today's lesson was, I learned or remembered what, an example is, and I have a question about. Thanks for tuning in. This is Miss Johnson with 1-4 Day 1 Distributing.